This is the Olivia Octopus left-handed step-by-step crochet tutorial. Pause this video at any time by clicking on it. Gather your items from your KelliDream crochet kit as well as your own pair of scissors. Your first round will start with a magic circle. Take out your magic circle tool, place it standing up with the groove facing towards you. Insert your working yarn into the top slit, leaving a little bit of a tail. Turn the tool on its side and wrap your yarn around twice, making an X. And then hold it with your index finger. Insert your hook facing down, going under the first loop and grabbing onto the second. Then pull through. Now twist a little, making a loop, then yarn over and pull the working yarn through that loop you just made. Use your index finger to hold the loop on your hook, go under, yarn over, and pull the yarn back under to create 2 loops. Now with 2 loops on your hook, you'll yarn over again and pull through both loops. This is your first stitch. You'll repeat this process 5 more times until you have 6 stitches on your magic circle tool. Each of these V-shapes makes up a single stitch, so count and make sure you have 6. Use your hook to tug on that last loop to make sure it's nice and large so it doesn't come undone. Now you're going to take a stitch marker and place it through the 2 loops of the first stitch you made, so the one furthest from your hook. Remove the yarn from the top slit and slide your magic circle off the tool. Making sure to hold on to that top loop, you're going to gently pull on the shorter piece of yarn, not your working yarn, and close your magic circle. It should look something like this. Now we're going to start round 2, which calls for 6 increases. An increase is just 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So we're going to go into that first stitch, the first V that's marked by our stitch marker. We're going to go through it, yarn over, pull through and create a loop, so you'll have 2 loops. Yarn over again, and pull through both. Now do our second single crochet into that stitch. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both of those loops. That's our first increase. Now we're going to move our stitch marker to mark the first of those 2, so we know where to end this row. Count back 1, 2, because you just did 2 of them, and mark that first one. Then we're going to do this again. Into that next V stitch, we're going to insert our hook through that next stitch, yarn over and pull through to create 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through both those loops. Then we'll do it a second time in this same stitch. Now we're going to do the same thing 4 more times, 2 single crochet into each one of the V stitches. So an increase in each stitch. Our last stitch is the one right before the stitch marker that tells us we're done with this row. And once you finish, you should be able to count the V shapes on this row, and you should have 12 of them. That's a good way to check if you've done the right amount of stitches. For round 3, we're going to do a single crochet and then an increase. So our first one, we'll do a single crochet just 1 time, and we'll move our stitch marker to mark that first stitch. Then the next stitch, we're going to do an increase. So in this one, we're going to go in twice like we did in the previous row. 1, 2. Then we'll go back to a single crochet. So we're only crocheting into the stitch 1 time. And then the next stitch is an increase. So we'll stitch into it twice. Then we'll go back to a single crochet. Then the next one will be an increase again. You'll repeat this pattern all the way around until you get back to your stitch marker. The round will end on an increase, so that last stitch before your stitch marker should be an increase. Double check you have the right amount of stitches by counting the V shapes in this row. They should add up to 18. Round 4 will be very similar, except it'll be 2 single crochets and then an increase. So we'll do that first single crochet and move our stitch marker. Then we're going to do our second single crochet. And then we'll follow that with an increase. So into the same one twice. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Repeat this all the way around, and you should end on an increase. Your final stitch count for this row should be 24 stitches, so you can go back and count all the V's and make sure you have 24. In round 5, we'll do 3 single crochets and then an increase. So we'll go 1 single crochet into that first stitch, like we've done before. We'll move our stitch marker to mark that first stitch. Then we're going to do our second single crochet. Then our third single crochet into the next V stitch. And then finally our increase. So 2 single crochet into the same stitch to do the increase. Then continue with that pattern all the way around. 1, 2, 3, and then an increase. As usual, you'll end this round on an increase, and you'll end with 30 stitches. As we start row 6, we're going to flip our project inside out. And if it keeps trying to flip back, don't worry, just fix it. It'll get it eventually. You're going to single crochet into that first stitch and move your stitch marker. And this round is pretty easy because it's just single crochet the entire way around. You're just going to single crochet in every single stitch, no increases. So you'll end this row with the same number of stitches as the row before. You'll have 30 stitches. You can count the V shapes and you should still have 30 when you get to the end. Be sure to be marking your rounds off on your dry erase pattern cards if you haven't been already. The next few rounds are all exactly the same stitches, so this will keep you from forgetting which round you're on. Round 7 is the same thing, 30 stitches, all single crochet. So single crochet into that first one, move your stitch marker, and then single crochet all the way around 30 times. You'll end the row with 30 stitches. As we reach the end of the round, make sure you mark off round 7 on your pattern card and make sure you have 30 stitches. So you can count the V's again and double check, but you should just have 30 stitches all the way around. And for round 8, we're going to do it all again. So single crochet into that first stitch, move your stitch marker to mark your first stitch, then continue to single crochet all the way around. As you end this round, double check and make sure you end with 30 stitches. For round 9, we're going to finally start changing it up again. We're going to do 3 single crochets and then a decrease. So do your first single crochet and move your stitch marker to mark your first stitch as usual. Then you're going to do your second single crochet, then your third single crochet, and then we're going to slow this way down so you can see what's happening with the decrease. You're going to insert your hook through just the front loop of the next stitch, so right in the middle there, and then you're going to go through the next front loop of the next stitch as well. So you should have, at this point, 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over like you would and pull through just the front 2. Now you'll have 2 loops on your hook like you normally would. You'll yarn over again and pull through those 2. And that is a decrease. So you move on to do 1, then 2, then 3 single crochets again, and then you'll do another decrease. So you go through that first front loop, then the second front loop, so you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through just the first 2, then yarn over again and pull through those last 2. You're going to continue this all the way around until you get back to your stitch marker. Feel free to pause and rewind if you need to re-watch how to do a decrease. Now to end this round, you're going to end it on a decrease. So you're going to insert your hook through those 2 front loops, pull through, and then pull through again, and you should have 24 stitches. Now for this next part, you're going to pull your hook out just so you make a nice big loop so you don't lose your place. Then you're going to flip your project over and you're going to count down from the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And once you find row 6, kind of hold onto it with your finger, and then in between row 6 and 7, you're going to insert one of the eyes. Then once you're happy with the placement of the eye, you're going to take the backing and press it on to the eye. You have to press pretty hard to get it to stick. Then you're going to count over on the same row about 7 stitches. And then in between the 6th and 7th stitch, you're going to insert the second eye. Of course, you can always put the eye a little bit further or a little bit closer. That's personal preference, but this is where we like to put it. When you're happy with your placement, you're going to attach the backing to the eye. Press hard to get it to stick. Now insert your hook back into the loop and tighten it, and we're going to begin round 10. This one is basically the same as the previous one, but only with 2 single crochets. So we'll start with our first single crochet, we'll move our stitch marker, then we'll do our second single crochet, and then we'll do a decrease. Insert your hook into those first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, and pull through. Then we'll do it again. 2 single crochets, and then a decrease. Pull through those 2 loops, and then pull through the next 2 loops. You're going to repeat this all the way around until you get back to the stitch marker, and you will end on a decrease again. Now we're going to go ahead and add the stuffing. Due to a printer mix-up, the next 3 rounds are missing from your included pattern cards. If you would like a copy of the corrected pattern cards, please contact us using the link that you'll find below this video on the KelliDream website. Even if you don't have the updated pattern card, this video will take you through the next 3 rounds step by step. Now we'll be moving into round 11. Round 11 calls for a single crochet and then a decrease. So we do our first single crochet and then move our stitch marker. And then we're going to go straight into our decrease. The decrease is done the exact same way we've done before. We're going to go in through the front loops, yarn over, and pull through. So we have 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through again. And you're just going to repeat this all the way around until you get back to your stitch marker, and you'll end this round on a decrease as usual, and your number of stitches should add up to 12. So you can count those V shapes and make sure you have 12. At the end of this round, if you haven't added all of the stuffing and you would like to add more, this is where you'd like to do it because we're about to close off the body. Round 12 is just all decreases. So you're going to start with your first decrease into that stitch with your stitch marker. And then you'll move your stitch marker to mark that new stitch. And then you're just going to do decreases all the way around. And you'll end this round with 6 stitches. Now that we've finished our last crochet round, we're going to use our needle to slip stitch and close it. It's actually very satisfying and very easy. So you're going to pull on the hook to create a nice big loop so it doesn't fall out. You're going to cut your working yarn about 4 inches long, and then you're going to thread your needle. Then you'll insert your needle and create a knot, just to secure it. And then you're going to go through just the front loops. in this last round. So thread the needle through all of those front loops all the way around. Once you get to the end, it's very satisfying. You're going to lightly pull on the thread to close that hole, and then push your needle all the way through and tug on it to pull it all the way closed. And the end result should look something like this. So now as we go into creating the legs, we're going to add some markers so we know where we're going. Otherwise, it's easy to lose your place, and this is a great way to keep your place. You're going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4 rows from the eyes, and then in between that 4th and 5th row, so right after the 4th row, directly under the eye, you're going to place a stitch marker. This is also technically in between the 11th and 10th row of all of the rows, but I find it's easier to just mark down from the eyes. Then we're going to move over a few spaces over to the other eye and count down the same amount. And then right under the 4th one, we're going to mark with a stitch marker. And then to kind of figure out the next one, we're just going to kind of slide over from the eye. So just kind of keep your finger on that row so you know which one you're starting at. And then count down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then right there, you're going to put a stitch marker. So these are just going to be our starting guide so we know which row we're going to continue stitching into as we create the legs. You can add more if you have more stitch markers, otherwise you can move them as we go. But that's a great way to keep our place. Now as we're starting to crochet the legs, we're going to remove that first stitch marker, that's our little guide, and we're going to do a slip stitch into that stitch that we had the stitch marker in. So you're going to be crocheting into the vertical parts of these stitches, not the V shapes. You're going to be kind of crocheting horizontally here. And now we're going to create a chain of 20, which means just yarning over and pulling through each of these loops. If you lose track of how many you've done, don't be afraid to pause and count them. You're just counting the V shapes like normal to know how many stitches you've done. Once you finish the chain 20, we're going to go back through these stitches with half double crochets. You're going to start by crocheting into the second chain from the hook. A half double crochet, you're going to wrap around your hook. Then you're going to insert your hook. Then you'll yarn over and pull through the stitch, leaving 3 loops on your hook. Then you'll yarn over again and pull through all 3 of those. And that's a half double crochet. We'll repeat this in every single stitch, going back down the leg. As you crochet, make sure to kind of pull tight after you finish a half double crochet, kind of tug on the working yarn, just so that the leg is nice and tight and it will start to curl like an actual octopus. If you naturally crochet tighter, this probably won't be an issue for you. Once you get back to the base of the leg, you're going to do a slip stitch in the same spot that you started from. If a slip stitch proves to be too difficult for you, you can always just do a single crochet here as well. It'll do the same thing. So you'll see these little X's. Those are where you're going to slip stitch into. We're going to skip one and then slip stitch into the second one. And for the second leg, just like the first one, we're going to chain 20. Then we're going to go back down doing half double crochets into each of the stitches below. Make sure you skip the stitch right next to the hook. You're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. You can use those stitch markers as a guide. And if you'd like to move them as you go, just use that same strategy we used before where you count down from the row with the eye. That'll kind of keep you in line. You should be easier to eyeball it once you've started crocheting, but you can always pause, go back, and replace the stitch markers. As you come back down to the bottom of this leg, you'll slip stitch where you started, just like before, just to secure it. Slip stitch or a single crochet, either will work. Then you'll skip another X and slip stitch into the next X. Please note that as you get to the 7th leg, it'll start to look like you're not going to fill the space completely between the last leg and the first leg. Look like there's too much of a gap. Don't worry, that's normal. I'm going to show you what to do. You haven't done anything wrong. Now we're going to fast forward through me doing most of the other legs, and we'll slow down again when we get to the 7th leg. But one thing to note as you're watching, once you reach the end of your stitch markers, if you still need a guide, just go back and do the same thing that we did before. Go down from the eye and around, and that'll help you know where to put your stitch markers and keep it on the right row. You'll see me do it at some point here if you keep watching. Feel free to pause and restart as needed because we will be like fast forwarding through this. But we will catch up with you again when we get to the 7th leg. Okay, so now we're back, about to do the 8th leg, and you'll see there's a few more spaces than there should be if we're just gonna skip every other one. So at the end, we're actually gonna skip 2. We're gonna skip 2 of those stitches. So it's 1, 2, and then slip stitch into that 3rd one. That'll kind of fill the space. Then you're gonna crochet as normal to finish that leg. Go ahead and pause here and complete the leg. Once you've come back down with your half double crochets, you can either slip stitch back into the same stitch that you started from if you're happy with the amount of space, or if you want to fill a little bit more space like I do, you can skip another stitch and then slip stitch into that one. Now all that's left to do is to cut your working yarn about 4 inches. Then you're going to pull that loose strand of working yarn through your loop and make a knot. Then you're going to thread your needle, and you're going to insert your needle through the bottom of the octopus and out through the top, and pull it to bury the yarn. Do the same thing with any loose pieces of yarn, like the one that started off your legs. Push it through and bury it. Then all that's left to do is to remove your stitch markers and cut off the excess yarn. And now you're done. Enjoy!